Story 1. When she changed her phone password every week and said it was for security reasons. Girl, who is trying to hack you? The Federal Bureau of Investigation? Or just your conscience? Story 2. He said goodbye to his mother and called her sweetie. When I asked if he called his mother sweetie, he said yes. I later found out it was his ex. I did not know about her, and she did not know about me. She kicked him to the curb. Story 3. He kept taking money out of the bank and never had money for simple things like his commute. I suggested we start tracking our spending together and turn it into a game, but he balked. No wonder I was so naive. Story 4. He was mean to me only. I thought he was working too hard and bent over backwards to make his life easier. I just suffered it for a bit, then finally called him out with, "The way you are acting toward me is not in character for you, and I want to know what's going on." He broke and spilled all the details, grateful to finally not be living a lie, and transferred all that pain to me. He had been cheating for at least 8 months with strangers off the internet, then found one he loved and was making plans for a future without me. Story 5. Every time it has happened to me, there has been a sudden, noticeable distance, almost like a switch flipped. Communication would drop off completely for long stretches, and I could just feel that I was not being respected or prioritized anymore. It is not just the silence. It is how you start to feel minimized, like your presence does not matter. It affects your dignity deeply. Story 6. Buying Rogaine in bulk, whitening teeth, dressing nicer for work. Started to exercise more. Our sexual pattern began to change. He wanted sex daily instead of the on-day, off-day routine we had for 10 years. I remember telling him, "Wow, it's like we're newlyweds again." But little did I know it was because he was just so turned on all the time. I suspect he was thinking of her. He made everything into a big deal to argue about and gave me the silent treatment for days on end. In the end, he placed a pillow between us in bed. He was being loyal to her while married to me. Story 7. There were many red flags. The biggest one was that in all the years we were married, she never initiated intimacy except one time. 1 month later, she was pregnant. Story 8. Talking about one specific coworker all the time. This person did this, that person did that, me and this person did this, and so on. Story 9. Protective of his phone, sleeping with it directly under his pillow and keeping his hand on it or near it throughout the entire night. He was meaner to me and more dismissive, but also randomly overly nice sometimes. Maybe when he felt a little bad for whatever he had done behind my back. He would look at me from the corner of his eye to see if I could see what was going on with his phone. He also used to stream, and I would watch his 2+ hour stream the next morning to see what he was doing on his phone. I could see him actively deleting chats and messages. Then he would tell me I was crazy the next morning when I brought it up. After I brought up the fact that he was on camera doing that, he started angling his screen away from the camera so I couldn't see anymore. Story 10. Constantly asking where I was and accusing me of cheating. I worked 12-hour shifts at a remote oil plant. When was I getting time for anything else? I had to strategically plan grocery shopping. Story 11. Maybe not a definite cheating sign, but a big red flag I saw and ignored. My anti-Facebook husband suddenly was constantly on Facebook or Facebook Marketplace while at home with me. He hated the concept of Facebook, but suddenly had his phone in his hand using social media. Story 12. Not me, but my best friend found a bra under her boyfriend's bed. He claimed it belonged to his roommate's girlfriend, who we knew did not wear that size. They got engaged. Then she received an anonymous email after going out of town that said, "While the cat's away, the mice will play. Fiancé's name is unfaithful." He blamed it on her little sister being jealous because she was getting married first. The little sister denied being jealous and denied creating and sending the fake email. She still married him, and they are still going strong with 3 kids 15 years later. Sometimes ignorance is bliss, I guess. Story 13. Woke up at 2 a.m. to turn off the bedroom light, which was controlled with an application. Used her phone because mine was too far away and I saw a Tinder notification. Couldn't believe she still had the application after we had been together for many months at this point. In a sleepy haste, I woke her up, nearly crying, asking what was going on. She explained she was only using it casually to meet new people and make friends. That was most definitely not what she was doing. I only connected the dots about 4 to 6 months after we broke up when she walked into my workplace, a technology repair shop, with her new boyfriend and tried to start trouble. Thank God I had an employee who covered for me when they came back and checked them out, so I didn't have to deal with that nonsense. Story 14. Hiding their phone, taking it to the bathroom, messaging constantly. But when you ask who it is, they say no one you know or work colleagues. Starting to emotionally distance themselves from you, spending less time as a couple, stopping talking about feelings or things that matter, going out for lunch, breakfast, or drinks with other girls who are just friends, but never inviting you or planning the activities when they know you are busy. Story 15. She would only shave when she wanted to have sex. One day, I noticed that she had shaved, and I got excited. I casually mentioned something about it, thinking that she must be planning to get intimate later. She acted really strange when I mentioned it, as if I wasn't supposed to notice. Turned out it wasn't for me. I should have realized this after she had already been acting weird in general. A few days later, she very unexpectedly told me that she wanted to separate. Then I kind of figured it out. She swore that she never cheated on me and that was why she wanted to break up first. But she definitely lied about many things towards the end that I later found out about. I ignored everything because I couldn't possibly imagine that she would do something like that to me. Story 16. When she became pregnant, I biologically cannot get any woman pregnant. Literally cannot. But she got pregnant, and I somehow lied to myself about it. Story 17. I came home and she was video calling someone while wearing a soccer jersey from a very niche Peruvian team. It was not a popular team by any means, and in all our 4 years together, she never showed any interest in this sport. I decided to ignore it because we were going through very rough times, and I wanted to return to our old relationship. Sometime later, I connected the dots and found out that her current husband used to play for that soccer team. Story 18. Not me, but my grandfather's girlfriend was talking about Life 360 to some friends and said, I think Life 360 doesn't work that well because it keeps showing my grandfather at his ex-girlfriend's house, and we can't figure out why. He is a terrible person, and his girlfriend deserves better. Story 19. Copying my answer from an almost similar thread a few weeks ago. She is protective of her phone, always on Do Not Disturb when we are together to hide notifications, brings her phone to the bathroom even to just wash her hands, communicates less, gets very angry when I confront her even about the smallest things and is very defensive. She does not post anything about me on social media but posts thirst traps. I ignored all of that because I was stupid and naive. Story 20. I started going to the gym regularly but never took a gym bag. I always did my makeup and took a shower before and after. She was very manipulative and controlling. I didn't think I could question or challenge her. Still, I learned a lot from it that has helped me have healthier relationships since. Story 21. He received a text from his father while in the car, and when I tried to play it in the newer car, he reacted angrily. He told me never to do that again. I ignored it. Story 22. He was always accusing me of cheating. Well, guess who the cheater was? Projection is a powerful influence. Story 23. Getting suddenly protective of her phone, when earlier she had been relaxed enough with it that I knew the password. She knew mine as well, mostly because we both kept losing track of our phones and would call our phones from the other's device. Story 24. Not happened to me personally, but my older brother married a woman who would disappear to her friend's house every time extended family visited and was just an unpleasant person in general. They were married for 10 years and raised 3 children together. It turned out she was cheating with my brother's best friend, and he did not want to believe it when the signs were there. It almost killed him when the truth came out, but he wanted to be alive and there for his children. He is doing much better now and marrying someone who actually cares about him. Story 25. Found Starburst candy wrappers in the bathroom trash. He does not eat candy. I had been away for a week. Story 26. Their phone became a fortress, always face down, taken into the shower, or reacting defensively to casual questions like, "Who is that?" with "Why are you obsessed?" Story 27. The phone went from being lost several times a day to being tucked into her waistband at all times. Hand me my phone turned into don't touch my phone. Story 28. He was cheating with the neighbor, and she had 2 young children, both under 5 years old. We never really did anything with their children, so we did not know them. One day, out of seemingly nowhere, these 2 children, both under 5, ran across their yard, across the street, and up our driveway to hug him, calling his name. Children do not do this to strangers. Clearly, he had been spending a lot of time with her and befriending the children. Story 29. Guarding their phone as if their life depended on it. Taking the phone into the bathroom when leaving the room. Story 30. Deflecting. He accused me of everything, even though I gave him no reason to suspect I was guilty of any of it. It was all him. Story 31. He would take the dogs on walks after work or dinner, not getting home until 10 or 11 p.m. Turned out she lived in our complex, so he was meeting her every time. I truly thought he was just out rollerblading or walking the dogs because he had done this a lot. I didn't get suspicious until I went out to the dog park one evening to let him know dinner was ready, only to see he wasn't there at all. That's when I realized something was wrong. I caught him with her a few nights after that. Story 32. I was in a relationship that had run its course, and we were clearly heading in different directions. At one point, I told several of our mutual friends that she would either never cheat on me or was already doing it, and I was oblivious. They became very quiet. Story 33. I was reading on the couch in our living room, bare feet up on our coffee table. My ex was walking past, stopped, looked at my feet with thinly disguised disgust, and asked me what size my feet were. I said, 7.5. Why? He rolled his eyes and walked off. In retrospect, all these little implied or explicit criticisms of my various physical attributes, most of which were out of my control, breast size, waist-to-hip ratio, length of my legs, size of my feet, should have been recognized by me for what they were, signs that I was being compared to other women, and always falling short in his eyes. For most of our marriage, I was a very average size 12. For him to stop the complaining about my figure, I got down to a size 2. I measured 5 feet 4 inches and weighed 102 pounds. It wasn't enough. I was still not good enough. I was so beaten down, I genuinely thought there must have been a widespread change in women's clothing sizes, because I was simultaneously being told I was fat but unable to find women's clothing small enough to fit me. There was no way I was an actual size 2. Thankfully, we have been divorced for decades now, and I am happily married to someone who likes me as well as loves me. We have been married for over 20 years, and I still get so much joy in being with someone who genuinely likes spending time with me. My advice to women everywhere is to pay attention if you are with someone who consistently lets you know the many ways you are insufficient, who constantly moves the goalposts so you can never meet the shifting standards, and for whom the problems in the relationship will always be your fault. If you are with someone like this, you can do better. Story 34. It was during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. He was from Newfoundland, Canada. We were in New Brunswick at the time. When everything started locking down, he got anxious and upset, repeatedly saying, "They won't let us go anywhere." He didn't even have a driver's license or a car, so I finally asked, "Where would you even want to go?" He became quiet and said, "Well, I guess nowhere." A couple of weeks later, he broke up with me over Facebook Messenger before flying back to Newfoundland to get engaged to the woman he was cheating on me with. Story 35. We were dating for a few months when she suddenly started skipping seeing me for a couple of evenings to meet her former boss. Allegedly, to return to her old job, they had to negotiate contract details over a glass of wine and an expensive dinner, multiple days in a row. When I asked further, she shrugged it off, saying the negotiations were very tough and typically take a couple of days. I was foolish to believe this story. About a week later, I was at her place doing something in another room when I overheard her thinking I had left the house. She was talking to her best friend on the phone, describing the sexual pleasure she experienced and saying her boss still had it. I immediately left and returned only once to collect my things and say goodbye. Story 36. You all want to know how foolish I was in my 20s. Okay. He had Tinder on his phone and would say, I just need to know you're the best out there. Look at these girls. They are trash. I would sleep over at his house. He would go out to hang out with his friends, while I stayed back just watching TV. He would also take my car. Girls would call my phone and tell me to leave their boyfriend alone. Yes, it was fun, but I was really young and naive. Story 37. I saw a text pop in from his ex on Snapchat. She and he ran in the same friend group, and with how negatively he spoke about her and their past relationship, I never suspected anything. I found out about 6 months after I dumped him for other reasons that he was texting his ex behind my back, sending nudes, and telling her all about the dreams he was having of her. Apparently, he was doing this for 2 years of our 3.5-year relationship. He and his ex were very messy, and from everyone's account, his ex was the unstable one who brought the relationship to a halt. So I never thought he would ever contact her, honestly. All his friends hated his ex. They were relieved when we got together because, frankly, I am a stable and level-headed person. After finding out, I ended up telling many of our friends about his activities behind my back, which of course upset a lot of them. I got reactions that ranged from, he would go back to her, after what she did, to you deserve better than him anyway. I later found out he was fired from the job I got him. I work in staffing and had to take a job doing construction, something he never wanted. He gained about 30 pounds after we separated, when his body image was already very poor when we parted. This would explain why he had not posted any pictures of himself since we split. I never wished ill on him, but in my nearly 30 years, you learn quickly to step out of karma's way and let it do its job how it sees fit. Story 38. Ex-girlfriend of mine went to an anime convention with a group of mutual friends over a weekend. I figured if she was going as part of a big group, I didn't have to worry about it. I really disliked the type of anime she was into, the relationship manga and shows about awkward teenagers in love, which seemed dumb to me, so I didn't go. It turned out our mutual friends were more her friends than mine because she was using drugs and engaging in unprotected sex with strangers the whole time, but I never heard about any of that from her or them. While she was there, one of the people who was supplying her drugs and being intimate with her must have had a closer connection because they stayed in touch. A month later, she and those mutual friends planned another overnight trip to hang out and watch anime. Since she always brought friends along, I assumed it was legitimate, but I didn't know those friends, both mine and hers, were all okay with her cheating on me, the person paying her rent and keeping it quiet. This happened a few more times. I tried not to be a possessive boyfriend and gave her the benefit of the doubt, but it was getting excessive. I let it go until I woke up and caught her talking quietly to a guy in the middle of the night on our landline, sitting in a closet. It was clearly not a friendly conversation. I confronted her. She admitted everything, and tears were shed on both sides, but that was the end of it. Her betrayal was terrible, but the fact that all those mutual friends didn't give me any kind of warning, not even anonymously, was just as bad, if not worse. These were people I'd let crash at our place anytime, eat our food, give rides to, and pick up when they were intoxicated. It showed I wasn't just my ex's victim, but also the whole friend groups. This was many years ago, so I'm well over it. Out of all the heartache I experienced navigating relationships in college and after graduation, that was definitely the worst. Story 39. Looking back, it was all there. Late replies, strange energy, always guarding their phone. But when you care about someone, you convince yourself not to see it. Story 40. All I have learned over the years is if they dye their hair and put on cologne at a new job, and they haven't for 10 years, I am asking who she is. Story 41. In college, she would go out. When I was studying, I would receive calls that ended abruptly, but only when I was home. There was no noise in the background. She was supposed to be out, but she was in. Story 42. He kept looking at his phone when it was his turn in Scrabble. I should have known he did not know half of those words. Story 43. I noticed that the tube of contraceptive gel she used with her diaphragm was always emptier than the last time she had used it with me. Story 44. She said she was going to after parties when the bar closed. In 2.5 years of dating, she never did this. Then she did it twice in 1 week. I accused her of cheating, and she broke up with me. She started posting pictures of a new boyfriend 2 weeks after we broke up. The last photo she sent me was from the bar, and the new boyfriend was in the background. Story 45. Intimacy abruptly stopped. It was not as nice or tender to me, but abrasive and cold, distant and removed. I hate that I did not see it then, but it is all clear from standing so far away from it now. Story 46. I know a man whose best man left to help his fiancée with something on their wedding day. He walked in on her performing oral sex on him in his bedroom. It turns out they had been having an intermittent sexual relationship even before they met. He left Scotland to become a whiskey salesman in the United States. I guess the supply of free whiskey helped. Story 47. Suddenly, he became distant and did not want to text or FaceTime as we usually did. I blamed myself because I was experiencing some mental health challenges. He had been using a dating application for a couple of weeks before taking another woman on a date and then ending our relationship later that night. Story 48. My ex asked me for an open relationship multiple times during our last month together. I simply kept saying no until she admitted it. Story 49. When my child suddenly developed a friendship with a child whose father was going through a divorce. Story 50. If someone is constantly criticizing a particular person, this has happened in my last 2 relationships. Story 51. Only wanted to hang out at night, did not want pictures or for me to tell anyone because of privacy, and the biggest red flag was that when we went on dates, they were extremely far out of town. For example, our first date was at a movie theater 1 hour and 45 minutes away instead of the one literally in our town. I thought he was trying to impress me. Story 52. She hated taking children to sports practice 5 minutes away but wanted to take one to summer baseball clinics an hour away. The man running the clinic was a coworker. Story 53. There were scratches finger-width apart in a very specific position on his back. My ex made some excuse and I believed it. I also stayed after finding out. Story 54. So many things I missed because she hid them within other reasonable life events. She enrolled in graduate school with evening classes but was not home regularly because she was in class or studying. The only thing she was studying was her coworkers. She participated in a public speaking group at work that traveled out of town, sent pictures from the event with all of her group members, and ended up having an affair with one of them in the hotel the same night. Story 55. When I came home after a particularly long deployment, she had redecorated the apartment. Any trace that I lived there, as it was technically my apartment she had moved into, was erased. Story 56. Watching the 2 students whisper to each other while taking a test. Neither of them understood the material, so they were both going to fail anyway. Story 57. He is like a brother to me. You do not need to worry about him. The guy she met at a bar with her single friends. Story 58. He talked nonsense to me and acted irrationally. He broke up with me out of nowhere and said I had so much love to give that I should give it to someone else. Then, with no provocation, he said there was nobody else. Days before this, he was talking about how he was going to be better to me. He also talked about his ex so much. I should have known, but he was my first boyfriend. Story 59. Didn't come home one night. Didn't even answer his phone until noon the next day. I literally thought he had died. I accepted his excuse that he had fallen asleep on a friend's couch. He had never done that before, and I am still kicking myself for not ending that relationship then and there. Story 60. Accusing you of cheating when you are in no way cheating or interested in cheating. If they cannot empathize with you not wanting to do that, then yes. Story 61. I once saw my younger cousin pull an Uno plus 4 card out from under the table. It hit my brother, so we let it slide. He was definitely cheating. Story 62. Drunk breakup messages at night followed by teary calls claiming she didn't mean it, was drunk, was only joking, or other excuses the next morning. University relationships. My biggest regret was passing up the chance to be with a girl I had fancied for ages because I wouldn't cheat despite everything. Story 63. Coming from someone who cheated, one thing I noticed about myself that changed was that I started to think my ex was cheating on me. I became more overprotective, thinking she was going out and cheating on me just because I would do it. I noticed the same behavior with 2 other friends whose girlfriends or wives started accusing them of cheating and became very jealous and territorial. It turned out they were the ones being unfaithful the whole time. Please do not cheat. It is harmful and wrong. Story 64. I had an ex who told me he was going to start taking overtime, and I told him that was fine. I was a brand new mom and extra money seemed good. However, when he got his paycheck, I noticed that it was not more than usual. Finally, a girl I knew tipped me off that he was taking my car and fooling around with a woman from a gas station. I was upset and packed all his things, setting them outside. When he came back from his 12-hour shift, I told him to give me my extra key and to call the woman to come get him, and he did. Story 65. He was convinced I was cheating. I was a stay-at-home mom in a state where I did not know anyone. He would go through my phone while I slept and interrogate me randomly. He was cheating on me with his coworker, and they had a baby together. Story 66. The game genie plugged into the cartridge. I genuinely thought she had impressive skills and could beat The Lion King on Sega Genesis without any help. She really fooled me. I still don't trust myself with retro games. Story 67. My ex was deployed in South Korea. I would call him occasionally to check on him and catch up. After about 5 minutes of talking, he would cut me off and say, "You were always so difficult to talk to. I am offended. I am hanging up now." I was confused and genuinely thought I was a bully, so I started counseling to improve my actions. Later, I found out he had a new girlfriend, and I was unknowingly interfering with their time together, worrying if my husband was okay. Story 68. He listed himself as single online, and I was blocked from seeing any of his friends' tagged photos and posts on Facebook after being together for 4 years. Story 69. My brother described what his partner did when she was sexually aroused. I said my wife did that too. He was with my wife and bragging to me about it. Story 70. My phone died, so I asked to use his phone to order food. And he said, "I deleted all my texts a while ago, so don't be suspicious. There's nothing there." Like I wasn't suspicious at all, but now. Story 71. Honestly, I laugh at all the people who are so secretive about their phones, because that is the #1 sign. Yes, we all deserve privacy, and my wife does not go snooping through my Reddit or anything, but she has my password and I have hers. It is not uncommon to use her phone if mine is dead, and the same for her. We have kids who might be using my phone or hers, so we use each other's too. If my wife defended her phone with her life just because I wanted to use it to watch some Ultimate Fighting Championship fights or video games on YouTube, then I would probably be pretty suspicious. More often than not, the super privacy crowd are the ones that find out their significant other is cheating after being together for 15 years. There were no signs, except the fact that they hid their phone and entire private life from their life partner. They usually find all the disgusting messages and dating apps when they finally look. So, I would say by far the biggest cheating indicator is someone who is extremely protective of their phone. Story 72. He started brushing his teeth and wearing cologne. For some men, this is normal. For him, it was completely unfaithful. Story 73. I started to see his location at a hotel around lunchtime, but he would usually tell me when he had a work lunch planned. I called him out on it more than once, and he stopped sharing his location, saying I was being irrational. That was in 2022 and 2023. I confirmed it a few months ago because I found the hotel key cards hidden in his desk. Story 74. Currently ignoring it, I think. Dead bedroom. He doesn't sleep in the bed with me anymore. And if he does, he will come to bed within an hour or two before I need to get up for work. He doesn't seem interested in me at all unless it has to do with a fetish he has. Otherwise, he just watches and reads pornography. I suspect he is either cheating or has a pornography addiction, possibly both. Story 75. He was very nervous if I used his phone even for a moment, such as taking it to get a better look at a picture he was showing me. If I ever asked to use it just to search for something because mine was downstairs, he would always make an excuse why I could not. Story 76. We lived together and had been together for a few years at this point. He wasn't home, and I needed to use his personal computer to print a document. It was password protected, but I guessed it easily because all his passwords were his name and his favorite number. I printed what I needed and turned the computer off. He must have realized somehow that I had used his computer because when he went to work the next day, he took his keyboard and mouse with him. Story 77. being told by close friends and mutual acquaintances. I did not believe it because the only times she left the house were to go to school, work, or with me. I ignored it, saying it was impossible. She did not have the time or opportunity. I finally believed it after people who did not like me very much told me how she bragged about cheating on me. Years later, I ran into her and asked about it. She told me she hid the fact that she was bisexual and that after I left her house at night, she would sleep with her pregnant best friend. She said it was okay because it is not cheating if it is with a girl. I am glad I dodged that toxic situation. Story 78. When a pair of red lace panties that I hadn't seen before fell out of her work pants pocket while we were talking as she was getting ready for work. She had a history before we got together of having sex at work with coworkers and also dating married men. She tried to tell me that it must have happened in the laundry. I have done a lot of laundry over the years, including female laundry, and haven't seen that before or since. However, I have seen several women grab their panties off the floor after sex and stuff them into that same pocket. She started treating me like the lowest form of person for the next 6 months, until I finally couldn't take it anymore and matched her energy once. She borrowed a man's truck and moved out the next day. The smear campaign about me was apparently epic, but she already had a reputation and all I did was work, so most people took it with a grain of salt. So yes. Story 79. He changed the passcode on his phone. There was never an issue with us grabbing each other's phones to send a text or look something up. He changed it and would not give me the new passcode because work requires it to be more secure. That is not true. Story 80. Home from Iraq for rest and relaxation, cuddling on the couch watching a movie, and her hair smelled like cigarette smoke. She did not smoke. She said she went outside with a work friend during their smoke break. Then, she would not be intimate during those 2 weeks because I had been away for so long that she needed time to readjust to me. Story 81. Constantly accused me of cheating, which was completely unexpected because one relationship is so exhausting to me. I can't imagine juggling multiple people on the side. Story 82. My ex cheated on me multiple times, but I only found out after we had broken up. 2 red flags I can now see in hindsight. 1. Suddenly getting very cold towards me, and then becoming very warm and affectionate. After I found out about the cheating and matched up the timelines, I realized that when he was cold, it was because he was actively cheating on me. He then became cold when the other woman found out about me and ended things. 2. One night, he was coming home very late and told me he was at the office having takeout with coworkers after completing a big project. I offered to order a ride for him because I had our car, but I was too tired to pick him up. He immediately started freaking out and texting me not to order a ride to his office. He even called me to make sure I hadn't done so. I later realized it was because he was at another woman's house and didn't want me to realize when the ride inevitably went to the wrong location. Story 83. He was always too tired for intimacy. He had no job. I worked 3 jobs and walked everywhere. He started gaslighting me, saying I had gotten too fat and that it reminded him of his mother. It turned out he was using the laptop I bought him to have multiple online affairs with barely legal women in nearby states. It took me about 3 years to kick him out because I was naive. He now says I ruined his life because everything went wrong for him the day I kicked him out. Screw you, Aaron. Story 84. I just like to go dancing with my girlfriends. We went back to Maya's and I fell asleep and drank too much. Story 85. Oh man, I totally ignored the signs with my ex. The biggest one. They suddenly started going to the gym at strangely specific times, always exactly 7:30 to 9:15 p.m., 4 days a week. And if I asked to join, they said, "No, it's my me time." Meanwhile, their fitness progress was suspiciously slow. But the real kicker, they became very protective of their phone, keeping it face down, taking it into the shower, and once literally snatched it out of my hands when I went to check the time. My gut was screaming, but I convinced myself they were just private. Spoiler, they were not just private. Story 86. She was his promotional model for his race car every weekend at the track. I tried not to be jealous. Then one weekend, she called me and said she was going to be with Jerry, the race car driver. Oh well, things happen, I guess. Story 87. She gave birth to a black child and named him Trayvon Jr. We are both very white. And my name is not Trayvon. Story 88. My wife literally just spent the last 2 hours, about double the usual time for a date night, getting ready to go on a hike with her friend. Should I be concerned? Story 89. Went to her apartment. I lifted up the toilet seat to urinate and noticed a couple of drops on top of the rim of the bowl. Oh wow, I thought. I didn't realize women get urine there when sitting on the seat. They do not. Story 90. They mentioned someone at work who was very annoying, but they kept interacting with her. Everyone warned him to avoid her. He married her immediately within a month of our breakup because I had a gut feeling something was wrong. Story 91. They always seemed to have enough money even though they did not have many properties. Not wanting someone else to be the banker was also suspicious. Story 92. The second phone was not like, oh, this is my old phone I keep in case my current phone breaks. No, it was always charged. He kept it under his pillow, and when I figured out the passcode, he snatched it out of my hands. Still did not dawn on me. Story 93. Caked makeup on his white shirt. A sexy bra on our night table after I had been away for a week. I used to wish he would come home to be with me, but soon I wanted him to stay away. We divorced many years later. Story 94. We used to go out a lot, pubs, clubs, bars, parties, gigs, and so on. If it was happening in our local town, we would be there, and we never bumped into her ex. But if I was not up for a gig or wanted to stay in on a Friday night, the ex would always happen to be at the event. He was kind enough to give me a lift home and would then sit outside in the car for ages before coming in. It was only after about the 5th time this happened in 6 months that I started to realize it was all planned. Story 95. Not me, but a close family member whose fiancé is always coming home hours late or making up excuses to be gone all the time. Like, give me a break. Story 96. I got really sick at a local festival we were attending. He had arranged to meet a female colleague and spend time with her before I arrived. She found other friends as soon as I got there and left, giving him knowing looks and giggling. After a few hours, I needed to leave because I was so ill. Instead of coming home with me, he acted annoyed as if I was ruining his good time. I drove home by myself. He stayed with his friend. I ended up in the hospital that night and he ended up in her bed. Story 97. Found a receipt in his truck. It included lubricant and tampons. He told me the woman in front of him did not have enough money, so he paid for her items. Yeah, right. Story 98. I saw him receive a message from his other girlfriend saying, "Love you too," and he pretended she was just a friend he had never mentioned to me before. Story 99. My ex constantly accused me of cheating. If I got a lift home from work with a colleague, male or female, it didn't matter. She would make me beg and grovel that I wasn't cheating with them. Surprise, I was not. She even accused me of cheating with her best friend just because we got along but never accused her friend of sleeping with me. Turns out she was cheating multiple times. She kept accusing me so I wouldn't suspect her. I confided in one of her friends that I couldn't take the accusations and begging anymore. That friend broke down and told me everything she was hiding for her. The moral is, if someone accuses you of cheating without reason and does it repeatedly, chances are they are trying to cover for themselves. Story 100. His testicles swelled to the size of plums, and he received a shot of antibiotics for a secondary infection from chlamydia. I was out of the room when the practitioner spoke to him. He told me it was because I performed oral sex too well. Story 101. I've known him for years. He's like my brother. If I wanted to sleep with him, I would have already. She had been. 2 years in, I found out she had been sleeping with him the entire time. On the plus side, she now has 3 different children from 3 different men, so at least I dodged that bullet. Story 102. He was always questioning where I was and who I was with. He needed to know my location at all times. I realized later it was so he could keep his cheating quiet. There was no need to worry about accidentally running into me or my friends and being found out. If I started to question his whereabouts, he would accuse me of cheating. Rules for thee but not for me. Story 103. When he suddenly accused me of cheating on him, I knew something was wrong. He was angry and showed up at my place, demanding to look at my computer, phone, and inspect my bedroom. I thought it was strange and started to wonder if it was guilt or projection. Turned out to be both because he was cheating. Story 104. A friend of mine had a gut feeling that the sun visor in the passenger seat of his car would be down when he arrived home from work. Story 105. I was hit by a truck, resulting in head trauma. She immediately withdrew from our marriage. We tried to work through her issues, and she said she needed activities outside the house. The first time she went out with a new internet group, she came and hugged me like the first time we met. That's when I understood. I was told she went on a hiking trail, but she repeated inappropriate jokes her new friend told her. Then she said the friend joked they would have to lie about the bruises on her body and claim they happened on the trail. In hindsight, my brain injury is quite obvious. She was unfaithful until caught and then left me unattended after my stroke. Story 106. Constantly on his phone, even seconds after being intimate with me, and very possessive of it. Extra mean and critical of me. Story 107. My ex had a deep red-purple mysterious bruise on his neck when I visited him while we were in a long-distance relationship for 2 years. We broke up for other reasons, but now I look back and wonder. I trusted him completely, but he was actually relieved when I broke up with him and seemed ready to move on as soon as possible. Story 108. Worked the night shift, came home at noon. I didn't think it was that easy to get a 5 a.m. hooker that often. Story 109-1. Not looking you in the eye when they used to can indicate that they are hiding something. Pay attention to the way they look at you the first time they see you after a short break, especially how it changes over time. If it goes from a bright smile to looking sideways and annoyed, that is a good sign they are looking for a way out. Story 110. Would get irrationally angry when mutual friends insinuated something between them. Would go to after hours at her place until 4 a.m. or later. Many people did after hours at people's houses in my local goth scene, but it would always be at her place after a while. Got angry at me for even asking him one day, "Hey, so-and-so blocked me on Facebook. Did I do something?" That one was strange. It was not a surprise to me that the two got married in the same year our divorce went through. I really ignored the obvious. Story 111. I knew when I was logging into his photo account, similar to Verizon's version of Apple Photos, that I saw an inappropriate picture that was never sent to me. I confronted him, and he admitted he had been sexting with another girl. Story 112. He jumped at his phone if I even so much as looked at it. One time, I went to grab the last sushi and he thought I was going for his phone and nearly knocked everything over trying to get it. I did not even have his password to get in anyway. He has happily moved in with the woman he was cheating on me with. Story 113. I came home from basic training and a pair of boxer briefs, a brand I never bought or wore, were folded and placed neatly among mine. I don't think she realized Jody had left them, and she truly thought they were mine. Story 114. Moods not matching what was happening. I was always confused by how impatient he would be all of a sudden or how he would start picking at me more often, even if things were good. The mood just did not align with how he normally responded or how someone would normally respond in a similar situation. This was the first thing, and he would always tell me I was being crazy for being so confused or claim I was just looking for problems. I wish I had trusted what I was clearly noticing. Story 115. He was very unkind to me, and I thought it was because he was working a lot, so I let it go. Story 116. When I was playing high school football, I took a block from their fullback. He separated my shoulder, broke my collarbone, and broke off my humeral head. He barely moved. Afterwards, he was tested for performance-enhancing drugs and, surprise, he was using steroids. Edit. I completely missed the context of this post, but I still stand by it. They were definitely cheating. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.